Okay, it's noon and we have a quorum and we'll call this meeting to order. Statement of the meeting law.
The Anderson Clerk of the Board of Education, Waynoka School District, I3, Woods County, Oklahoma. You hereby certify that the date, time, and place of this special meeting was filed in the office of the Clerk of Woods County, Oklahoma, not less than 48 hours prior to the date of the time of the meeting. I also certify the last 24-hour prior to the meeting, including Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, that the date, time, and place of each meeting was posted in a prominent public view at the location of this meeting. Witness my hand and seal of this school district, the 28th of July, 2020.
Okay, roll call. John. Here. Garrett. Here. Rick. Quinn. Here. Okay, vote to approve or not to approve the return to learn plan for the 2021 school year.
I'll kind of highlight some things and see if principals want to say anything, and if you have questions, I'll kind of open it up. Just kind of going through here, one of the first things right off the bat is we're going to restrict visitors in and out of the school building. Obviously, if a parent needs to pick up a child, they can come to the main office and get it, but one instance would be like in pre-K when they bring a parent to show and tell. We're not going to allow visitors to come into the classroom. We're going to keep our visitors, keep the people that are going to expose kids to them.
No
Again,
more
this-
lunch dates.
No more lunch dates this year. Well, we put in there that obviously as time goes on, we can adjust things. If the need arises, we can get stricter, a little more lenient if, say, the virus does go away. But for right now, we're going to restrict all that access. As far as meals, since you brought that up, we are staggering our lunches a little more. Kids will have assigned seats, that kind of thing. For elementary, obviously junior high and high school, how many of those kids typically leave? About half of them?
Typically, the most we had last year on one day was 50. Typically, it was around 30 that eat lunch here.
The rest are off campus.
The rest of them go.
And then for breakfast, what we're going to do is we are moving our after-school program to before school. And so when the elementary kids through 6th grade get here, they'll go straight to their classroom and the teacher will be there for them. And then if they want breakfast, it's going to be a grab-and-go style breakfast. And we'll bring it to the classroom for the meeting there. That was just our big congestion spot, to where every morning we have all the elementary, all the junior high, and whatever high school kids showed up in a bus. There was just a lot of kids in there, so that was the best way we found to limit the number in our cafeteria for the morning. So we're not going to do away with the concept of the after-school program. We're just moving it to before school, and it'll start at 7:30, which is when our buses drop off the kids. And that'll go all the way through pre-K.
Pre-K
Normally
through
that started at first grade, but now we're sending it down to pre-K.
Did you say the purpose of that is for cleaning?
Yes,
The purpose of
because
moving is for cleaning after the end of the
Right, and then after school, we have a machine we're gonna clean the whole school with. And so that way we can get started on that sooner. Instead of waiting until after 4 to try to get started, we can start at 3:15 or 3:20, probably when everybody's clear. Obviously, cleaning is going to be a lot of this protocol. We're going to up our cleaning. Obviously, we hired another janitor, as you know, so that'll help with this situation. But there will be a schedule of routine cleanliness plus on our buses as well. We're going to have to clean those daily as well. So we're going to have a lot of cleaning to do this year for sure. More frequently, I guess. Kind of going to our color coding charts. Be our next big task. Well, I guess right before that's communication. Obviously, we'll communicate with everybody, parents and stuff, via email or website, our online platform, and then we have created a Facebook page. Anna's in charge of the Facebook page, so we started a Facebook page, so we'll try to push out information there. So and of course the papers. So in our color coding, obviously the county map. Anyway, the county map has our county color code. So we kind of broke down using some of what the State Department put out, following some of their guidelines. So starting in, obviously if we're in green and yellow, which right now we're in yellow, we're going to strongly encourage mask wearing by our kids and staff. However, it's not a mandatory mask wearing at this time. There's the color-coded map, as you can see. Woods County is in yellow. And that's changed weekly, is what it is. And so once we get to orange means there's several cases in our area. What we're going to have is staff wear masks, and we're going to have kids wear masks through the hallways, any type where they can't social distance very well. So you've got your hallways, you've got different events we have in the multi-purpose building. Where else do we have? Library, media center.
Cafeteria when they're not eating, like if they're as a walking in or if they're in lunchtime or whatever, have a mask on.
For grades 4 through 12.
And we're talking with the health department about that. It helps them with tracking contacts. So contacts they consider to be of a certain amount of time within a certain amount of proximity of a kid. And so when you're talking junior and high school, we rotate in that hallway and they're always around each other. But they said it's not considered a contact if they're wearing a mask at that time. But if they go in the classroom, then we kind of can narrow it down to it's that group of kids. So we're not going to force them to wear it the whole class period. Now, the health department may decide that we're a severity of the case where we're going to have to start doing that. But that is a stipulation in there that could be forced upon us. But that is not something we're starting out at.
One thing in the classroom, the desks all facing the same direction, so there's not like nobody's going to be sitting across from each other. So that was another reason to justify not a mask in the classroom, where all the aerosols will be going the same direction.
Did you say all eight or even like pre-K, kindergarten?
They suggested just 4th through 12th grade, but those below to teach them how to wear masks. So,
We mentioned the dividers that we have.
yes, we did. For pre-K, we got dividers. They're called sneeze guards, and they're plexiglass because in pre-K and kindergarten, they have circular depth or tables that they use. And so we ordered 5 for each classroom that go in an X, and so they divide them in 4 dividers. We ordered sneeze guards also for 1st grade and 2nd grade as well for reading tables. Band, we're looking at band as well. Sock guards for the instruments so the aerosols are reduced. I'm trying to think where else we have. But they didn't recommend those for below 4th grade, but to teach them how to use them. And so in cases we can't use them in the hall, they are suggested.
And then, obviously, last section there would be the red, and then there's where we will look at moving to our distance or blended learning. And then we have a second color-coded chart, and so we felt it important that we relate it to our schools, because, let's face it, our county is mainly made up of Alpha, so they're going to affect a lot. And so just because, right now we're yellow, and as far as I've heard, we haven't had a case in Waynoka to this point, but obviously Alma has, and they're going to control a lot of what happens in Woods County. So we made one specific to our school, and so obviously if we're green, we have no cases, we're following that other color-coded map. But if we get a case on our campus, we move to the yellow, which is basically like the orange of the other, to where we'll wear face coverings in and out of the building in common spots, so on and so forth. Our orange is from 2 to 4 cases, and this would be wearing a mask at all times. But now, keep in mind, we may be out at this point. So obviously, the minute we get a case, we'll be working with the health department. But if it's 3 cases and it's all in 3rd grade, then 3rd grade will probably be distance learning. but it didn't affect the remainder of the school. But if we've got a case, say in elementaries and junior high, high school, well, now we're spread out through the whole school, so we will be going to our distance learning model, our blended learning model. And then obviously for red, that's more than 5 or more cases, there's no way we'll be in school regardless, just we'll have to quarantine. And that was working with the health department to help us create this, so that was their recommendations on there for that. Any questions about the color of the chart? Okay. I think the one caveat we have is in band, which band is an elective course. And so in our band, if they choose to take band, they will be wearing a specialized mask. And obviously their instruments will have a mask as well. But that would be the only caveat. But if that parent's going to know that up front, that that's an elective, if they choose to take it, then that kid will have to wear a mask when they come in.
Are we furnishing these masks?
No, our band teacher is hand making every mask.
What about the other masks?
Yes. So we've ordered some,
Probably 2,500 masks, I think.
and then we've got some disposable ones. So what we plan on doing is the first day of school, we've got one with our logo on it, so it's a little nicer. We're going to give it to all the kids and staff first day of school.
It's washable, reusable, washable up to 30 times, that particular mask.
And then we order some just plain cloth masks that we'll give them at the start of every 9 weeks. And then we have disposable masks if they forget them, as long as supplies last. But so right now we are planning on supplying those. We do supplies we supply all of their school supplies. So we just felt like this year that was part of it. And if we fall into a category where we're going to force them to have to wear it, I feel it's our responsibility.
The masks are sized, age appropriate, and other than the disposable ones, they're all reusable and washable up to 30 times. So,
But we have roughly 2,500.
yes,
Right.
not including the paper or the disposable ones.
And we've also ordered face shields for like music teacher at pre-K, those that are teaching phonics, reading, and that way they have that option for a face shield when they're teaching as well. We have some
And the
masks.
purpose of that is when you're teaching phonics, it's hard
Right,
to
so they
teach without seeing the movement of the mouth and how to
Right.
position it.
And
Same
we-
thing with speech. And
Right, and we also ordered some clear masks as well to have a cutout of a clear panel in that. We'll see how they work.
Okay, going to our academic side of things, we're offering 2 models that the parents will get to choose from in enrollment. And the first model we call our foundational model, but inside here, what the parents will choose to do is just like normal. They'll choose whether they want to come to school traditionally. That means the 10 classes come on site. Obviously, that traditional model can transition into a blended model, which we're using Seesaw in grades pre-K and K, and we're using Google Classroom in 1st through 12th. So we limited the platforms we're using so that parents aren't having to learn 5 different platforms. And so when a kid is unable to attend school because maybe they have to quarantine for many reasons, but let's say they have to quarantine for 14 days, well, they're not missing school. They're going to log on and go through that Google Meet and Google assignments, or however they're getting their assignments that way. Google Meet is like a video conference type deal. So I believe they can interact with the teacher online directly, but our teachers are also planning on recording and saving lessons on there. So if they weren't able to attend that day, they can go on there and pull up.
So it'll be
math
our
lesson.
teachers that they're doing that with.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be our teachers. And so that way when they come back, say their quarantine's over 7 days
They're not
later,
behind.
they come back, they're still right there like they never left. And their attendance for that blended will be them logging on and finishing completing the homework on time. So it'll be just like they're in the classroom. And then the other model is the virtual model. Well, okay, so one thing for the Wyndham model, we are working on trying to get some hotspots, because we know not everybody has internet access. So we're gonna try to get some hotspots that they can check out through us, so that everybody's equal. Right now, if they have to leave and they don't have internet access, they're gonna get a paper packet like we did last time to complete it. The problem is there's no interaction for homework help. Now, they can call on a planned time and talk to a teacher that way, but it's just not as feasible, so. We've got enrollment Thursday, Friday, and Monday. So Thursday, Friday this week, and Monday next week. So we'll have an idea of how many may not have internet capability at that time.
Even with everybody having smartphones and stuff, there's still people that didn't have.
Yes.
So when we asked if they had a device, we wanted to know if they had a computer, whether it was a laptop or desktop or whatever, so they could, I mean, you can type on the phone, but, you know, we want them to be able to type on a keyboard,
Right.
like they would at school. So they could watch a Google Meet or a video or whatever and do the paper packet, you know, worst case scenario,
If they have a smartphone.
if they had the smartphone.
And we're gonna ask more direct questions this time, because that was, when we asked that question, and we realized we probably weren't specific enough for that instance. But that was, again, last March,
I mean, you could use your phone as a hotspot.
if they have that capability. I mean, typically they have to pay for that. So, the one thing with the hotspots is we're making sure whichever we go with, I think we're gonna look at Pioneer today, she just brought up that I wanna be able to lock it down so that it's tied to a certain computer and it's tied to certain websites. You know, I don't wanna give it to where people have access to Facebook and Netflix. I mean, that's not what we wanna use this for, so, that is one thing we have to look into each one of these to see what we can do. The next model is our virtual model. This will be something the parents have an application process to go through. Obviously, if they choose virtual, they're going to be in charge of making sure they have internet and capabilities to do it, number one. And then that will be all online. So it'll be Ingenuity and it'll be Exact Path. So Ingenuity starts in sixth grade, and Exact Path is kindergarten through fifth, is how we're using that. We'll have one teacher in charge of monitoring those who are enrolled and assist when needed. They will have 1 week from the time they decide which model to use, they'll have 1 week to make that decision final. So in enrollment, after they enroll, we start August 12th, they get 5 days, because if they decide that they chose virtual and they're like, oh, this isn't going to work for us, and want to come back to our school, they've got that five-day window to make that transition at each semester. So 1 in August and 1 in January. Anything else I missed about those two models? The last section is extracurricular, and I wish I had more news than what we have on this, but we're just going to have to follow OSSAA and state guidelines. We don't have much to go on there. They say we're planning on going as normal, knowing that we may have some interruptions, so that's what we're going with. We're going to try to do it as safe as possible and look at different ways we can minimize the risk of spreading this if we get it. But when it comes to contact sports and those kids being around each other, we don't limit so much. And that's going to be play at your own risk in a way, but we are going to do our best to limit exposure in that circumstance. One thing to keep in mind, it is OSSAA policy that they have to be enrolled in on campus 1 hour. So if they choose virtual, but they want to do extracurricular, then they'll have to be on our campus 1 hour, and that could be the athletic period. But they do have to be on our campus 1 hour between 8 and 3:15.
For all extracurriculars, not just athletics.
Right.
So band, whatever, you'll be enrolled one hour. Enrolled and here, 1 hour.
So they can take an FFA class for 1 hour?
Yeah, and be enrolled in the.
Yes. They can take a band class, fax class.
It doesn't have to be a specific class. class. It just has to be one class. I mean, they could,
Gotta be under roof.
they could take biology and that would be the 1 hour if they wanted to. So, yeah, gotta be here for 1 hour.
But that's for any extracurricular.
Any extracurricular.
The OSSAA guidelines.
Yeah.
It doesn't fall under their umbrella, then no. Any questions on this plan?
Well, actually, the blended method, it's really not a choice.
It is not.
You're actually
If you're
coming-
choosing traditional,
You're choosing traditional, and then if for some reason you have to miss, then you go to
yes.
the blended method.
And that's kind of why in that diagram we made it one box, because you're just choosing this model. So you're going to be in traditional, but we understand that there could be a circumstance where you're not in school, and then you just slide over to the blended, and then you'll slide right back to the traditional whenever you get there.
Encourages more kids to stay at home if they're sick and they still want to stay.
It's the same thing. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's COVID, it could be the flu.
Yeah.
It could be they broke their arm and they're in the hospital. I mean, whatever that reason is.
Is there something you're gonna do, temperature checks every morning?
Yes, sorry, I did skip over that. So we have a log, parents will fill out the log and sign it and have the temperature of that kid for that day. If they do not come to school showing us that that log is complete, we will take their temperature before they walk in the door. Same thing with getting on a bus.
Yeah, I was questioning whether the parents have to fill something out,
Every single day.
and the bus driver,
If that log's filled out by the parent, we don't do anything. They show us the log. If that log is not filled out, then we take their temperature as long as it's under 100.4.
the bus drivers have to do that before they get on the bus.
Yes.
If their log isn't filled out, the bus drivers have to fill it
You know, they will have a no-touch thermometer as they get on the bus, because what we find if we get them to school, trying to get them back home is an issue. So we're gonna do it before we ever pick them up from home.
And it's going to come in a binder that's clear, so they just pull it out of their backpack, show it, and then if they don't have it completed, then we'll take their temperature.
I guess Gail or somebody will sit at the door
Yes.
every morning and.
And then,
We'll be there.
yes, we'll be
We're
there.
always at the front door, so.
And then before they go to lunch, teachers will take their temperature as well, just to see if they have a
Elementary, yeah.
Elementary teachers, yes. We'll take their
And the
temperature
other
before they
thing
go.
is like, high school's open campus, so when a kid comes back from lunch, they'll get their temperature taken as they walk in the door there too.
And if someone comes in, like they have a doctor's appointment and it's, after 8, then they'll have their temperature taken as well.
I want to go back to Rick's question about the blended and the traditional. Everything's going to be on Google day one. So it's really, the difference between traditional and blended is the location. So students are going to be doing their work on Google primarily. And then when we're out, for whatever reason, they have a device at home, or take one home, whatever. So it's all there.
In school,
They're gonna be using the
Yes.
Google platform.
Google Classroom.
Google,
Yes.
Google Classroom.
Right,
Yes.
yes. So really the difference is the location between traditional and blended. But now that's not to say there won't be some things that we do in the classroom that aren't on Google Classroom. But we're going to be using devices in Google Classroom from day one. And then there's no transition or no hurdles to jump if we have to stay on.
And each child, we make sure each student in school has a device here at school that they can use. So they'll be used to the Google platform from the classroom from day one. So if they go home to transition, like, let's say they're sick, then they'll understand how to use it at home. It's not just going to be sort of like the distance learning where we kind of have all these things.
That device will be when they check out when they get here, and then check it back in at the end of the day, and then
Yes.
before. I guess not a
So you're
device
gonna
that
have
take
to clean the device. I was fixing to ask, is the kid gonna have that device the whole week? or-
All year.
Yeah,
They'll have the same number, like it'll be.
But it'll be checked in every day.
They'll check it in every day.
And
They're
it'll
not
be
gonna
clean.
take it home. It'll be
Yes.
clean.
Okay.
And it will stay in
We
there.
have time to do the education again.
I know.
We'll be clean though.
Yes. But those will remain in their classrooms as
Well, I
well.
was
so-
gonna say, if it wasn't gonna be clean, they need their same device every day.
Yes.
Both is going to
Yes.
happen. We're going to clean them, we're going to have the same one every day.
Have the same one plus be clean.
Yeah.
But in
Yes.
my experience, if they have that same one, and they take it home and they throw their book bag or their locker, taking care of those is kind of an issue.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay, anything else? Are we ready to approve this? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the return to learn plan.
Do we have a second? Second. Garrett, a second. Any vote, John?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Item 5, vote to approve or not to approve the virtual academy handbook for 2021 school year.
virtual handbook just outlines what the program is, how attendance is taken, what platform, depending on what grade you're going to be on, what's expected. So it's just more specific to our virtual program. Anything you want to add to that?
I'll make the motion.
Second, Garrett, motion, John, second. I vote yes. 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 Okay. Vote to approve or not to approve changes to 2021 student handbook.
I think the big change from the time you guys first saw it is we added language about blended attendance.
Attendance.
But I think that was the only thing that really got adjusted, but the lunch prices.
Lunch prices were just those two things.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second. Garrett, motion, Clint, second. I vote yes. 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 Vote to approve or not to approve to amend the 2021 school calendar.
So on this calendar, our start date, everything's going to be the same. We're starting on the 12th. The only thing that changes, there are 4 dates. It is September 4th, October 9th, November 13th, and January 22nd. Now, we are called Blended Learning Day, and so that is more of a, I guess, a practice day for our teachers and our kids, so that hopefully we can learn how to transition between the models before it's time that we have to.
Was the fall break split Monday and Friday last year?
Yes.
This will just be you shut down school, but you still have,
We will,
Everybody-
yeah, so
everybody
the
will
kids
do
will
it.
be home,
Right.
the teachers will be here, and it'll be a test run of what it is. If we have to close our
That way
doors for
everybody's
2
not
weeks
used
for
to it.
quarantine, that way we kind of, like September 4th, that's early, but our hope is we hadn't been closed by then, and we can find out our kinks before, it
Right.
happens. So we've got 3 in the first semester, and then that 1 in January after we come back from Christmas break, I feel like that's just a good refresher time to do it one more last time, so. But 2 of them are set for the first 9 weeks, basically, in our first 9 weeks. Hopefully, we don't have to go full-time blended, but I feel like we need to be prepared just in case.
No motion?
Yep.
Make the motion. Second motion. Garrett, second. How you vote, Rick?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Okay, vote to approve or not to approve fundraiser request for athletics.
This is for selling apparel for athletics.
Move to approve fundraiser request.
second.
On motion, Garrett, second. How you vote, Rick?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Vote to approve or not to approve to amend or add to board policies 1 and 2.
Any questions about any of those? Online instruction, was attendance changed in that for our policy? There's a few things changed in the other one as well, mainly due to COVID stuff.
I'll make
With no second, and I'll second. How you vote, Garrett?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, vote to approve or not to approve the school resource officer agreement with the city of Waynoka.
This is for the city. They've hired Dennis Kilmer, been in law enforcement for at least 20 years. I know he worked at the correction facility there.
What's his last name?
Kilmer. Our contract with the city is the same as it was last year. The difference is, I believe their contract is a year-long contract instead of like it was last time, so hopefully we don't have that in the middle of the year leaving. So,
I move we approve.
Motion, second. Garrett, second. How you vote, Tony?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Discussion and possible action to approve the 2021 public school teacher salary scale.
It's the same as it was last year, just remember we had to create this last year due to that 12/20 increase, that they said teachers got the increase, but they weren't gonna adjust the minimum schedule, so we gotta make our own. That, nothing changed as far as that is concerned from last year.
Same thing, we need a motion.
I'm gonna make approve. I'll second.
I have a second, I vote yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Discussion and possible action to declare items listed on attachment as surplus.
I move we approve.
Second. John, second, they vote here.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Discussion and possible action to amend the section 125 plan with American Fidelity.
I move we approve.
Second.
Garrett, second. They vote here.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Proposed executive session, discuss the following personnel decisions in compliance with 25 OS 307B1. Do we need this?
I don't need it unless somebody wants it.
Okay. Move on to 18, vote to approve or not to approve employment of support staff for the 2021 school year.
I recommend that we hire Rachel Watson as support staff.
Have a motion.
Make the motion to hire Rachel Watson.
Second. John, second. Any vote here?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Okay, vote to approve or not to approve the extra duty pay schedule for the 2021 school year.
I move we approve.
Second. John, second. Any vote here?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, I vote yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.